Hi guys, how are you today? I am in my vegetable garden, finally prepping it and planting it up for the spring season. A few days ago, I by hand tilled the garden bed to the very back of me. That took me a few hours, so I decided to rent a rototiller and do these two beds right here. I wasn't able to plant in my garden last year. I put some wildflowers in it, and so I knew that I needed to work the soil, till it, and put some amendments in it. I put 3 cubic feet of Recipe 420 potting soil and 3 cubic feet of the Big Harvest garden soil from E.B.Stone in each bed. Now each bed is 4 feet by 8 feet and 12 inches tall. The garden bed furthest behind me has always been the bed that I use for my herbs. Every year that's the one I've always put all my herbs in. The middle one I always use for peppers. So I like to make a lot of salsa, and so I'll do poblano, ancho, Fresno, serrano, jalapeno, as many chilies as I can fit in there, along with red, green, yellow bell pepper. I think I have one squash plant this year. This one is always for my tomatoes. So I have 4 San Marzano, a couple of Roma, tomato, and a cherry, and then I'll be doing corn also this year. And so the last thing I need to do before I start planting is put Bio-Tone in. So for each bed, I need 4 cups of Bio-Tone to mix it in before I start planting. And you only need to mix it in about the first 4 to 6 inches. You don't have to till that and get it all deep down in there. The outside of the bed, I've always toyed with the idea of putting landscape fabric down and then a gravel, just so that I'm not having to kick up the dirt. I've really never had a problem with weeds growing, so maybe that's part of why I haven't, done the landscape fabric and the gravel. The one thing that I'm sitting on the fence on doing the gravel is we have 3 camphor trees in the front yard. They were here before we bought the house, and if I'm not mistaken, I don't even think nurseries carry those trees anymore. I have a lovely relationship with those trees. Starting spring, they will drop leaves and little seeds and flowers for weeks on end, and when I say they make a mess, they make a huge mess. And so I will have just a massive amount of leaves back here, and that's part of why I haven't done the gravel. So it's just easier to rake up the leaves, when I just have the dirt. So I'm going to go ahead and put the Bio-Tone in and get planting. I have everything planted in. I'm going to go ahead and get some more herbs that I wasn't able to find the other day, the specific ones I'm looking for. And I'm going to go ahead and get some marigolds and get those planted in. And those help kind of take all the bugs. The insects that like to feed on your vegetables will gravitate towards the marigolds, and that's kind of why I want to put them in here. When we had these beds built, Actually, my husband built them for me for Mother's Day. Probably the best Mother's Day gift I ever had. He ran water to every bed. And so I have an old drip system in, which works fine, but I'm going to explain why I need to change it. I had them on sprayers, but I'm changing them to bubblers. And the reason why, in California, at least in Central California, we have very strict watering guidelines that we have to adhere to based on your address. When you can water, how long you can water for, and the times during the day you can water. And that's just because we don't get very much rain here, and I don't think the sprayers were conducive to my vegetable garden, and I think the bubblers will give them more water for when we have the system on. So that's why I'm changing it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this part out right here, because I'm going to plant a rosemary plant right here, even though it's not here. And I want to make sure that I can get this bubbler here. This is an inline bubbler, so you're just going to wiggle it on and attach the other side. And then at the end where I have my basil, I'm just going to touch this one. And this is the end line, the end of the line here. I'm going to go ahead and stake it down just to make sure that it stays put. Then I'll go on and finish up all the rest of the emitters. I got everything planted, and I really like how it turned out. I wanted to go over one more time why I chose to get or put in bubblers instead of emitters. In California, or Central California at least here, because of our stringent water guidelines that we have to abide by, I can only water on certain days. So I want to make sure that each time they do get water, they get the most amount of water possible. And that way I knew a bubbler would be able to distribute that kind of water that I needed. I might and probably will come in with supplemental water. The reason why it's important for us here to get so much water to these plants, last week it was already 90 degrees. And that's unseasonable for this time of year. So we will probably, once we hit summer, by 10 o'clock it could be 90, and by 6 p.m. it could be 110. And it will be like that all the way up easily through September, even to early October. So that's why I need to be cognizant of really how much water my garden gets. I really do appreciate you guys watching, and hope you guys are having a great weekend, and we'll see you soon. Bye.